Hi students, in this first lecture for online lecture 20, we are now going to talk about our standard heats of formation, which is going to be our delta H's. So what are our standard enthalpies? Because there's no way to measure the absolute value of enthalpy for a substance, we're going to have to rely on a relative amount of energy that we must measure for each reaction. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to establish the arbitrary scale of the standard enthalpies of formation. This is going to become our reference point for all enthalpy expressions for the remainder of our course. So what is a standard enthalpy of formation? This is the heat change that results when 1 mole of a compound is formed from its constituent elements at a pressure of 1 atmosphere. The standard enthalpy of formation of any element in its elemental state is going to be 0. So as you can see here, the heat of formation for our oxygen is going to be 0 because this is the standard enthalpy of formation of an element in its correct form. But now, as you can see, if I go and try to do the standard enthalpy of formation for ozone, notice this is not an elemental form, so therefore there's going to be an energy of 142 kilojoules per mole. So now you can see if we have carbon in a graphite form, which is its most stable elemental form, you can see that the heat of formation is going to be 0. This is much different than diamond, which is going to have a standard enthalpy of formation of 1.9 kilojoules per mole. So as you're looking at standard enthalpies, you want to be able to see how your compound is being built from its constituent elements. If we are trying to determine the standard enthalpy of formation, your reactants must be elements. You can have no compounds. And then for our products, we must make sure that we are forming 1 mole of that compound if it is a gas at 1 atmosphere or at our standard states. So let's take a look at this example. Which of the following equations represent an enthalpy of formation? So let's look at number 1. You can see that we are mixing SO2 gas plus O2 to give us SO3. Notice that number 1 cannot be a standard enthalpy of formation because this is not an element. This is a compound. Our sulfur dioxide cannot be in our reactant's location. So therefore, number 1 cannot be an enthalpy of formation. Let us go ahead and look at number 2. You're going to see that I have our 1/2 N2, but notice that it says it is a solid. Is that an elemental state? No. Nitrogen historically only comes in a gaseous state for our element. So for number 2, you had to be very careful into reading the reactants to see that I have a non-elemental state. This means that number 2 cannot be a correct answer. So let's go to number 3, and you'll see that I have 2 chlorines, both in their gaseous state, which is their elemental state, mixing with silicon in its elemental state to form 1 mole of silicon tetrachloride. This is considered an enthalpy of formation. So number 3 is going to be a correct answer. If I go and look at my answer choices below, you will see that that is going to leave me with answer C. So in each case, you got to see why certain things were disqualified. 1, we cannot have compounds as a reactant. 2, you need to make sure that they are in their elemental states. And for number 3, we must make sure that we are making only 1 mole of our product. So why do we care about our standard enthalpies? Because now we are going to use these standard enthalpies in balanced chemical equations. So let's look at our thermochemical equation. As you can see here, we have our ice going to liquid water. Heat is being absorbed, so now the question becomes, is our delta H for this reaction negative or positive? Well, seeing that we are absorbing energy, we would expect our delta H to be positive because of this being an endothermic reaction. So how are we going to signify this in a balanced chemical equation? So because our delta H is positive or greater than 0, we can now state in a wording format that 6.01 kilojoules are absorbed for every 1 mole of ice that melts at 0 degrees C and 1 atmosphere. The best way of writing this is using a balanced chemical equation. As you can see from my wording, I have explained that using not only my molecular formulas, but now I'm able to put our delta H's after our balanced chemical equation, telling us how much energy is needed in order for this reaction to work. For an endothermic reaction, we are always going to have a positive value. Remember, that should mean that our energy is be considered a reactant, but we are going to separate it from our balanced chemical equation and put it to the side. How we do that is leave the positive sign intact, and that is why it is listed as delta H equals 6.01 kilojoules per mole. So now let us go and see about this reaction. In this case, we are going to take our methane, mix it with oxygen to give us CO2 and water. This is a methane combustion. So in this case, as you'll see, you'll notice that our delta H is negative. The system gives off heat to the surroundings, and we typically call this an exothermic reaction. So we know that our delta H is going to be less than 0, or it's going to be negative. So now we can state that 890.4 kilojoules of energy are released for every 1 mole of methane that is burned at 25 degrees C in 1 atmosphere when it has oxygen. Now that could be a mouthful. It is best for us to go and write a balanced chemical equation, as you see here, and then separate the delta H. But there's a major difference in this problem. Notice that our delta H retains the negative sign. So our delta H being negative 890.4 kilojoules lets us know that this energy is being released. So as you're looking at thermochemical equations for the remainder of this chapter, as well as other courses, anytime you see a negative delta H, that means that our reaction is giving off heat. This is a sign of an exothermic reaction. In our previous example, as you saw with it being positive, that means that that energy is going to need to be added in. This is common notation to put our delta H values after our balanced chemical equation, but that sign gives us a really important designation on whether we need energy or we are giving off energy. Let's take a look at a few rules of thermodynamic chemical equations. First off, the stoichiometry and coefficients always refer to the number of moles of a substance. So in this case, you can see that I am going to melt 1 mole of ice to 1 mole of liquid water. That has a delta H of 6.01 kilojoules per mole. If you reverse a reaction, we are going to have to flip the sign of our delta H. So as you can see here, I am going and freezing 1 mole of liquid water to go and form 1 mole of ice. The only change that has been done here is the negative sign to indicate that we have flipped the reaction. If you flip a reaction, you are expected to flip the sign. So now, as you can see here, if you multiply both sides of an equation by a factor, typically a whole number integer, then you must multiply the delta H because you're running that reaction multiple times. So as you see here, I'm going to take 2 moles of ice and convert it to 2 moles of water. In this case, I am going to have to multiply my delta H by 2, so that way we can show that we are going to get twice as much energy. So whatever you do to the balanced chemical equation, you are expected to do that to the delta H. Finally, the physical states of all reactants and products must be labeled. I know in many balanced chemical equations, you might have forgotten to put in aqueous or solids or liquids or gases. But now, because we are dealing with the standard heats of formations and we need to know which ones are elements, it's incredibly important that you have the phase labels listed for all species from here on out. That is how we know that we are going from ice to water and not from, let's say, water to our water vapor. Notice that there is a drastic difference in the energy that causes these reactions. So now let's take a look at what it means for a standard enthalpy of reaction. This is the enthalpy of a reaction carried out at 1 atmosphere. This means that we are going to go and take our standard enthalpies of formation and use them in our balanced chemical equations to predict the energy needed for that reaction. How we do this is that we will look at the balanced chemical equation for A and B going to C and D. Notice that the lowercase letters would be our molar coefficients. In this case, we are going to have all of our energies for species C plus the energies of species D being added together minus our energies for compound A and compound B. Now, I know that there's a lot of Greek letters in this format and it can seem overwhelming, so let's go ahead and streamline it down to a little bit nicer format. A better way of saying this is that the sum of the energy of the products minus the sum of the energy of the reactants will give us the delta H of the reaction. So what you're going to want to do is find the standard enthalpy of formations for your individual species, multiply them by their coefficients, and then add them together for the products, and then add the reactants together, and then do the subtraction. Remember, delta H's of the elements in their standard states are equal to 0 kilojoules per mole. This might occur when you see a problem in which an element gets listed, but I do not provide you with a delta H of formation. If you are given multiple compounds and no delta H's, it is best that you look these compounds up in the back of the book, in your data tables on your homework, and on an exam, I will provide you with many delta H's for many different compounds. You will use the same format, the products minus reactants, not only for our enthalpy, but then when you get to Chem 120, you will start doing this for entropy and our Gibbs free energy. So let's take a look at this example. Pentaborane 9, which is B5H9, is a colorless, highly reactive liquid that will burst into flames when exposed to oxygen. The reaction that I have is listed below. It says calculate the kilojoules of heat released per gram of the compound, our pentaborane 9, when it's reacted with oxygen. The standard enthalpies of formation that you need are provided. So remember that I need to go back and use our delta H of our reaction is equal to the sum of our products minus the sum of our reactants. So the first thing that I want to go and do is get the energy of our products. So our products are going to be our 5 B2O3s. So what I need to do here is go and say 5 times my negative 1263.6 kilojoules. That will get me one of my products. And then I need to go and add that to 9 of my waters, which I have listed here. So that would be minus 285.8 kilojoules. And the total energy for our products is going to be a negative 8,890.2 kilojoules. So I've done 1/3 of my math. Let us go ahead and do the reactants. In this case, we are going to take our 2 times, and we need to go to our pentaborane 9, so that is going to be 73.2 kilojoules. And the nice part about this is that you will notice that I don't have to do anything with my O2 because this is in its elemental form. So we do not need to worry about the math. All we would be doing is taking 12 times 0 and ultimately producing 0. So for our reactants, we will get an energy of 146.4 kilojoules. So now what I need to do here is go and take my negative 8,890.2 and subtracting out my reactants, and you should get a delta H on a polar molar basis of negative 9,036.6 kilojoules per mole. Now, notice that this is not the answer that we want based off of our question. So what we need to do is go and convert our kilojoules per mole 2 kilojoules per gram. So what I need to do in all of that is that I will go and get the molar mass of my pentaborane 9. So I can say that 1 mole of my B5H9 is going to have a molar mass of 30.694 grams. And that means that I am going to end up with a value of negative 294 kilojoules per gram. So as you see in this example, determining the products minus reactants gives us the delta H, and then if we have to convert units, we can. Let's try this for our final example of this video. What is the enthalpy of reaction, our delta H of reaction, for the following reaction? So you will notice that I have SiO2 plus 4HF going to SiF2 and 2 waters. So how can I do this? Well, the first thing we need to do is go and get the delta H of our products. So in this case, our products are going to be my SiF2. So you will see that I am going to get negative 1615 kilojoules. There's only one of them. And then I will need to add 2 waters. So in this case, you'll know that notice that I have 2 values for water. There's a delta H of the liquid and a delta H of the gas. Which one do I need? Notice that I use the liquid. So I'm going to use my negative 286 kilojoules per mole. Be careful that you are selecting the right species with the right phase. So in this case, I am going to have negative 286 kilojoules. And if I go and get the value of my product, it is going to be negative 2187 kilojoules. Let us go and look at our reactants. So in this case, I have my silicon dioxide. So that is going to have a value of negative 911 kilojoules. And then I need to go and add 4 of my HF. So in this case, that is going to be negative 273 kilojoules. And if I go and put that into the calculator, I will get a value of negative 2003 kilojoules. So what I need to do in this case is now do the products minus the reactants. So now what I'm able to do is if I have a negative in my reactants, I can more or less add this because 2 negatives make a positive. And I end up with a delta H of my reaction being equal to negative 184 kilojoules per mole. If I look at my answer choices, you will see that that is answer choice A. In this video, you saw 2 very important concepts: the understanding of the heat of formation and which species we already know the value for before looking up in a book, and then finally understanding how to do the products minus reactants math so that we can predict the delta H of any reaction using our thermodynamic data. Have a great day.